I am so excited for this. Quentin Schultze is with us. He's Calvin University professor of communications. I normally don't have a communication professor on because they're normally, well, they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to modern communication. But this guy we're having on, he is not only emeritus professor of communications, he taught storylines and storytelling with Gene Shepard, who is probably the greatest storyteller ever on radio. Welcome, Quentin. How are you?
Wow. Thanks so much, Glenn. You know, that was the thing. I was a new professor of communication, and generally professor with a PhD means piled higher and deeper. But in this yeah. So in this case I thought, storytelling is the most potent form of human expression. No question about it. And I thought, who out there is the best storyteller that I could learn from firsthand? Because that's the way you really learn. I looked at the textbooks and all, forget it. And I had known of Gene Shepard. We shared a hobby called ham radio. I listened to him on WR radio for years. And so I looked up his call letters and his home address through the FCC directory, and I said, "Dear Mr. Shepard, I'm a wet, behind-the-ears communication professor, and I want to learn storytelling. Would you teach me?" And Lo and behold, he wrote back. He couldn't believe that a professor was actually going to him. Most professors are not humble enough to ask other people for advice.
Yeah.
So he said, "Yeah, let's do it." So we began corresponding and all, and then I invited him to teach with me. And as far as I know, except for the director of A Christmas Story, Bob Clark, I'm the only person still alive who knew what Gene Shepard was doing, how he told stories, and what he was doing in the movie A Christmas Story. He wrote the script for it. And let me just tell you, Glenn, what he taught me absolutely blew my mind. It revolutionized my teaching. It revolutionized my relationships with people to be able to tell stories really well. And it was stunning. And the number one thing I learned from him is that every one of his stories is a parable. A parable. In other words, it works on two levels. There's the entertainment level, and you say, "That's a funny story. Look at that guy with his leg lamp there. Ho, ho, ho," But then I'm talking to Gene, and I said, "Gene, what about that leg lamp thing, man? What about it? I just don't quite get that when it's a parable. Come on. What are you talking about, man?" He says, "Quinn, that leg lamp is a trophy wife." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, it's a trophy wife. The old man falls in love with, becomes obsessed with that leg lamp that he pulls out of the carton that arrives, and right away he's smitten by it, and he's in love. And and he said he wants to go put it in the front window. For what reason?
Wow.
To turn on the neighborhood." And so Gene explained to me that in his worldview, guys are incurably romantic toward women or secondarily other things. Could be cars, could be rifles, could be other technology, and they fall in love. And they get so smitten by these other things that it interferes with their relationships. So Mom knew when she saw what was going on with the old man and that leg lamp that she was going to have to do something. She was going to have to get this, Glenn, end the affair by breaking the lamp, which she did. So the whole movie, A Christmas Story, is filled with these parables. And that one is number 2 in my book of 20 parables, which is called Curtail Your Obsessions. And it applies especially to men.
Unbelievable.
You're so good, Professor. This is Liz Wheeler. I'm sitting in for Stu today. When we were talking about having you on right before the program, I was like, oh, he styles himself as a storyteller. Please, I'm waiting to be impressed. I was engrossed in your story. Tell me, so that's number 2 on the list. What's number 1? I think I speak for a lot of people when I say I love when there's hidden messages and parables and Easter eggs and stories. What are some other ones?
Yeah, one of my favorites is what I call tackle your technology. Now, Gene Shepard believed that human beings, particularly men, create technologies, but they can never fully control what they create. So the technologies always get out of hand, and things happen that were unexpected, and they break down. And, he and I shared this hobby, ham radio, so we would talk about our rigs, as we called them, going bad. But he's got this wonderful thing in the movie with the furnace downstairs. Yeah. So the old man is sitting there, enjoying at the kitchen table where the family really happens. Their relationships happen at that table. And he's listening. All of a sudden he hears clink, clink, clink. And he yells, clinker! And he takes off, puts his gloves on, down the stairs to try to fix that furnace. Now, clinkers were pieces of coal that would not burn fully, and they were still hard, and they would fall to the bottom of the furnace and go clink, 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 and they were really frustrating. And so he periodically has to go down there to try to fix the furnace. Well, and I'm talking to Gene Shepard, the screenwriter of A Christmas Story, about this. He says to me, Quinn, that's my nickname, Quinn, he says, you know that the old man runs down the stairs because he's headed toward hell. I said, what? He said, yeah, he's going down to the 7th level of Dante's Inferno, where with all the soot and all the heat and smoke and everything else, he is going to stare face to face with that demon of a furnace, and he is not going to win the battle. He said to me, that's the way all technologies are. Sooner or later, we find out they don't work as well as we thought, and we get into trouble. And the more I thought about that, I thought, man, he's brilliant. Another part of that in the movie is the car. The old man has this 1937 Olds touring sedan.
Right.
And that sucker would freeze up at the equator in the middle of the summer, he says. So he's always running outside in the middle of winter to pour hot water on it to try to get it going. And, of course, he has problems with plugging in the Christmas tree and plugging in the leg lamp. He's blowing fuses all the time, although he could replace those fuses faster than a jackrabbit on a date. That's another story. And my favorite life lesson from the movie A Christmas Story really is it comes to the fore at the end. And Bob Clark was such a great director. And so there are two scenes at the end, these scenes of reconciliation and peace. One is where the old man and Mom are together at the end of the day on Christmas. Mom turns the light off, and the two of them sit down together. And they're touching each other. They're reconciling. I mean, they've been battling over the leg lamp, really, the affair that's going on there. And so they're reconciling, and they're looking out through the window, which is the same window that the leg lamp was in.
Right.
And you see the snow falling down. By the way, that wasn't really snow. Those were potato flakes being thrown from the roof because there was no snow. But what's interesting about this also is that Gene pulled on a lot of biblical themes, and the leg lamp gets placed among the plants because Gene said to me that those plants are Mom's Garden of Eden that she waters and likes to keep going and keep them green and vibrant. So when the old man takes this tawdry, ugly, humanly concocted leg lamp and puts it right in the middle of the Garden of Eden, and of course the leg lamp itself represents sin in a way because it's an affair, obsession he has, she knows he has to break it. So when they're on the sofa together looking out the window, they're looking out over those plants right outside without the leg lamp there. And you can give thanks that they have reconciled. It's just so wonderful.
Wow. Anything behind the shoot your eye out?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I titled my book, You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, because it's the most searched term related to the movie A Christmas Story. Of course, Ralphie's trying to get the rifle. He goes to his mom. That's not going to work. He goes to Miss Shields' teacher, and she writes on his theme, P.S., you'll shoot your eye out. Then he goes to Santa and gets into trouble with Santa at the top of the mountain. By the way, that mountain that he climbs up to pitch Santa, his last resort, remember, it's his last resort.
Yeah.
That mountain, Gene said to me, is like going up to petition God. Or on Christmas, you get a lot of kids, and they believe that they can somehow petition Santa and get what they want. And Ralphie doesn't really believe it, but he's going to give it a try. And so he's going to go up there, and then, of course, he gets kind of pushed with Santa's black boot down the slide, which they got from a swimming pool company. And Santa says, you'll shoot your eye out, kid. So Gene said to me repeatedly that if there's one big lesson in life to really be careful about, it's our lack of humility as human beings. We do things that cause trouble for ourselves, like we would say, you put your foot in your mouth.
Yeah.
And so he used that term, you'll shoot your eye out, as a way of getting at this. We have to be more humble and be careful and watch out for what we do in life. So that runs throughout the movie in many ways.
Man, you should do a commentary on the movie. I'd love to watch the movie with you doing comment. Maybe you could just come to my house for Christmas as we watch it, because it's unbelievable.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I had all these notes and all from teaching with Gene. He died in '99, and I thought maybe someday I'd write a book about storytelling and him. And the movie, when it came out in '83, did not really do well.
Right.
And so I thought, well, why write a book if the movie is not going to do well? And every year it sells more and more copies, and more people see it. 40 to 50 million in the U.S. alone see it every year. And so finally my wife said to me last year, stop just talking about it and entertaining people at dinner. You got to write the book. So that's what I did, Glenn.
Wow, boy, she must be tired of this story, because I know my wife's tired of all my stories.
Oh, yeah.
Quentin Schultze, that you can find at quentinschultze.com, is the author of the book, You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, Life Lessons from the movie A Christmas Story, that was released over the summer. Kind of a bad time to release that book, Quentin, but it's great now. It is great now. I want to know, is there an overall theme? Is there something that he was trying to get at in the overall movie?
The way I would put that, Glenn, is that he wanted to reflect back to us the drama, the everyday drama of life, the good and the bad, the ups and the downs, but then end with some grace, some hope. And so that's how he framed it. That was really his worldview, was that human beings get themselves into all kinds of trouble,
right?
But often we get out of it in spite of ourselves,
right?
And so that's what happens. So there are various kinds of redemption and all in it. Even the old man who salivating for that turkey, he just has to have that turkey.
Yeah.
And then when the Bumpus Hounds come over, and the Bumpus Hounds, that's another whole part of it. But when they come over and snatch the turkey, and the old man is left standing there holding the wing, and you wonder, is he going to eat it or what's he going to do? And he drops it, and he says, all right, everybody, get upstairs, get dressed. We are going out to eat. And they go to Bowling's, B-O-W-L-I-N-G, but the W's out on the sign, so it's Bowling's Chinese restaurant. And Gene said to me that what he was trying to get at there is the fact that we have to be flexible in life. And he used to tell me that being in the entertainment business that he was, in many different media, you had to be flexible because opportunities would open and close, but he said that's the way life is. And so he wanted, toward the end of the movie, to show that the old man could be flexible and for the benefit of the family. And so they had a great time at the Asian restaurant together. Now, by the way, if people don't know, Gene Shepard not only wrote the screenplay, but that's his voice that is doing the voice over. It's the older Ralphie. And Gene had such a good voice, and he knew how to deliver these lines in a way that it really makes the movie sing.
So, Quentin, one last question. We're up against a network break. Let me ask you if there was which came first with him, the parable or the story?
Yeah.
Did he make a list of the parables and then say, I'm going to craft a story, or did he craft a story and then put the parables in?
Yeah, it's a great question. In fact, I've never been asked that question before, and if a student had asked that, I'd say, hey, you're on the way to at least C+, you know? That's what Ralphie gets. By the way, that's what Gene got in his college creative writing class. He got a C+.
Wow.
So the way Gene operated, he'd look around the world, observe the world, see what was going on, make notes about things, find interesting things going on, and he'd say, well, what's the principle behind that? And then he would come up with some principle like men are incurably romantic and women are practical and rational. And then he would start to build the stories around those life lessons that he observed.
I got to tell you, you're still teaching, aren't you?
Part-time here and there.
Well, I would love to take a class from you. You have a lot to teach. You're the first communications professor I've ever talked to that I think it boiled it down to the right things. It's all about story. Quentin, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. The book is You'll Shoot Your Eye Out. You can get it now. It makes a great Christmas gift. You should go get the book and then watch the movie after you've read the book with your family. It's so great.